So let me start. So today's session is all about like how to start your data science journey. So it will answer many of your doubts, like what are the difficulty and normally students face in their data science career path, and what are the topics they should learn while starting the data science journey, and all those things. So that's what I have put everything in the agenda, like what is the demand of data scientists in the industry, why you should choose data science as a career option, and of course what is AI, what is ML, DL, data science. These are closely related with each other, so what is the difference between each of them, so that I will describe here. Then of course applications of data science in different industries, different job roles in data science domain, because when you are landing to your data science job you should know all these things. Okay. So and then what is the learning path to become a data scientist? This is very important. Then where to look for resources and practice problems, how to increase chances for getting shortlisted, and of course what you should put in your resume building and what you should not include in the resume building. So those all things. And then a normal hiring structure when companies visit to the institutes. So what is their typical hiring structure, what are the different steps they go through hirings, all those things I will just talk about. So let me start with the very first thing, like a demand of a data scientist. So see, in this particular graph, it is clearly visible that the global demand for machine learning and AI solutions greatly exceeds the production capacity of all the data scientists in the world. And this gap is growing exponentially. So here, if you see like orange color line, so this is showing the availability of the data scientists, and the blue color one is showing the demand. So you clearly see like demand is exponentially growing high day by day, year on year, right? And on each passing year this gap is increasing. So that's where we see clear cut gap, and we can easily say, okay, if we have a good understanding of this domain, we have a good technology know-how, then there is lot of potential in this field. There are a lot of job options in this field. Okay. But one more question arises: what is the reason behind this high demand? So see, in today's we are living in the world of digitalization. Everyone is going digital. Okay. So if we just talk about some numbers, then you see like number of emails sent every second is around 2.9 million. Data consumed by households each day is around 375 megabytes, right? Video uploaded to YouTube every minute is around 20 hours. So likewise, if you see these data, and if you talk about tweets per day, it's 50 million tweets. Okay. So in today's digitalization world, every second, millions of bytes of data is getting generated. But what is happening with that data? Right, it is a raw data. So we need to, now companies are trying to process that data and getting meaningful insight from that data. So that's where the requirement of data scientists comes. They need data scientists to process this data and help companies to ease out their business decision making, to help them take better decisions. Okay. So that's the main idea behind the need of data scientists, why each and every company is going behind the data scientist. Okay. So now that is from company's perspective, why you should select data science as a career option. See, data science can be a fun. So if you talk about some experienced person, so they are their daily routine 9 to 5 kind of, like they are working on same kind of technology, same kind of tool, so they get bored sometime after some time. But here, this field data science, this is kind of research oriented, so here every day you are excited, you get new problem to solve, you get to work in new technology, so it's never boring job. It's a fun. Then multiple job designation. Data science domain comes with multiple job options like data scientist, data analyst, data engineer, statistician, machine learning engineer. So I have kept one slide for that, I will explain in coming slides. So it has multiple job designation, ease of job hunting. In the very first slide I have shown you like um, there is a clear cut gap between the demand and the availability of the data scientist. If you have right set of skills, you will easily get a job. It's very easy to grab a job here. Okay. Customize the product, highly paid career, salary is awesome in this field, cost optimization, AI is the future. When I say AI is the future, what I means? See, uh, in today's every day new technologies are coming out. Okay, then you should be updated with you with the new technologies, right? But in AI field, like it's not going to get obsolete in near future. So you have good career, you learn AI, and you can at least survive for next 20 years. So that's there. So that's the job security comes with AI field, right? So see, I explained lot of data is getting generated. With that, lot of insights need to be generated from that data. Lot of prediction need to be done. Lot of opportunities are there in this field. Okay, so let me take just one example, like high. What is the salary structure of the typical data scientist? If you talk about average entry level data scientist salary in India, it's on an average 5.7. Okay, and if we talk about average senior data scientist, so on an average it is around 18 lakh per annum. It goes to 3 million to up to 3 million, right? That's 30 lakhs. It's very, very good, right? And if you talk about average data scientist salary, in first two graph I showed like entry level and senior data scientist. Now here average data science salary, it's around 8.18 lakh on an average. Okay, so this good amount of salary also is a high paying job in India. And of course, if you develop further advanced skill, then you if you are interested going abroad, then lot of options are there in this field. Then with all these understanding, let me explain like what is AI, ML, DL, and DS terminology. Okay, so little bit domain understanding in terms of AI domain. So artificial intelligence. So it is nothing but the program with the ability to learn and reason like human. So what it means by this line? See, when I say ability to learn and reason like human, I say replicate the behavior of humans to the machine so that they start behaving like human. So if you Google Sophia, okay, then you will get a beautiful girl talking to human, answering the human questions. Okay, so that is the capability of artificial intelligence. And under that, we have different branches like machine learning, deep learning, all those things. So now one of the important branches is machine learning. So what it talks about algorithms with the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So what is meaning here? See, in mathematics, we have some set of formulas defined. Okay, but wherever we don't have some set of formulas defined, so how to expect a particular output? Suppose I'm asking, there is a land. What is the price of this land after 10 years? Do you have any formula defined to calculate this price? We don't have any mathematical formula, right? Then how to get the price of that land after 10 years? So these are the prediction problem. So the, these like in these places we use machine learning to understand the pattern. What pattern, like on an average each year, what is the jump it is taking on the price, or what is the decrease in price due to various environmental industry factors, GDP, and all those things. Okay, so that's where, like, when we don't have any set of formula defined, we go with machine learning. How to do that? What are the different algorithms? That I will give you in some other slide, next coming slide. Okay, so this is just like machine learning, where we don't have any formula defined. We want to go with pattern, then we apply machine learning. Very high level definition I'm telling, I'm not going in deep right now. Now comes another branch is like deep learning. So what we do in deep learning, it is a subset of ML in which artificial neural network adopt and learn from vast amount of data. So when we say vast amount of data, so just see right side, like 80% of the world's data generated in last 10 years. And in similar line, around 80% of the resource improvement in last 10 years. So there is nothing new in deep learning compared to ML. Same technology, everything is same. Then why deep learning? Let me explain you. Deep learning means mainly deal with unstructured data. When we have images, when we have raw text. Okay, so let me tell you one thing, like our computer system or any machine don't understand the textual data or images. Okay, they only understand the numeric data 0, 1, 2, 3, like that. Okay, so when it comes to text, when it comes to images, they don't understand. So what we do, we convert them to numeric data. There are some techniques how to convert them, we'll talk about later, but we convert them somehow to numeric data, and then we feed to our ML model and then get the prediction. Okay, so that's the typical job. So that's where when we start converting images or raw text to numeric data, the feature set, the amount of data, this becomes very high. And then our normal ML model fails because they don't have like that much computation, or we cannot do that much feature engineering. So that's where when we have huge amount of data, we go with deep learning. We just dump raw data to our models, and then it automatically comes with important set of features. What are the important behaviors, what are the important patterns out of that data, and then finally we apply machine learning algorithm to predict the certain things. So that's where, in a very high level definition, when you have a large amount of data, you need large amount of computation, then you go with deep learning, neural networks. That's the only basic difference between machine learning and deep learning. And then comes data science. So data science is a field of study which combines statistics and math. It requires programming skills by either Python or R, and most importantly, domain expertise to extract meaningful insights from data. So see, data science is nothing but the combination of all the techniques, AI, ML, deep learning. It incorporates everything. It's kind of science of data. You have raw data, you need to process that data, and you need to come up with important insights that helps the business decision making. So that's where data science comes in place. To go into data scientist domain, you should have understanding of statistics, you should have understanding of domain knowledge, you should have understanding of programming skills. But when I say programming skills, so whoever is not from CSIT background, it's not like they should worry, they should have some fear, like they cannot go into data science. It's not the hardcore programming, it's not that deep programming skill needed. We have some set of libraries, only that understanding you need to know how to import, how to use those library, how to call those libraries, and that's it, you're good to go. Okay, so that everything I'll explain in next slide. So this is the basically terminology know how, what is artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, and what is data science all about. Okay, so now let's move further. Like uh, what is a typical machine learning model flow? So when you are preparing for a machine learning domain, a data scientist or machine learning engineer or data analyst, your typical job will be to build the machine learning model. So you should know what are the typical steps in machine learning model flow. So that's where I have explained here, like what are the typical flow. So you start with data gathering, then next step you do data analysis, then data pre-processing, then variable selection, then machine learning model building. So let me explain like what happens in each steps. Okay. So data gathering. So in data gathering, you start collecting the data from different sources. What those sources could be? Your data could be stored in Excel, so you should know how to read data from Excel. If your data is stored in CSV, then you should know how to read data from CSV. Similar manner, your sources could be JSON, JavaScript object notation, JSON format. Your data could be stored in XML, extensive markup language, XML documents. Your data could be some website URL. You need to harvest that website, and then you need to do further analysis. So in this gathering data, you should have understanding of how to collect the data from different sources. So that's where if you are so there are different techniques for collecting data. So if we talk about Python, for example, then in Python we have pandas library that helps you to read the data basically from Excel and CSV. Okay, so that's where here you should understand those two library mainly, pandas and NumPy. Then second step comes like data analysis. So once you are ready with your data, then next step, what is the expectation? What you should do? Next thing is data analysis. So under data analysis, what you will do? You should understand the know-how about the data, what your data is all about, which domain it belongs, what are the different variables inside the data, how they are, what is the relationship between these variables, what are the characteristics of those variables, whether they are numerical or categorical. Okay, is there any missing values? See, sometimes what happens in the data collection phase, you miss some of the data, or there are chances while you are collecting the data, that time the data is not available for a particular cell. Okay, so those values are missing. So that all analysis you do in second step, that is called data analysis. Okay, so in this phase, these are the main steps you perform. Then third steps comes as data pre-processing. Now, till now, you know everything about your data. Okay, what is the next step? You need to do the data pre-processing. So what you will do here, what whatever analysis you have done in data analysis phase, based on that you start data pre-processing. For example, in data analysis phase, you have identified there are certain missing values. Okay, then in this step you need to deal with those missing values. So there are various steps how to deal with those missing values. One very basic step, you just remove that complete row which has majority of the values as missing. Okay, that you simply remove and you move forward. Another thing could be you come up with some method to fill those missing values. You can, those methods could be, you can fill the missing values using the mean value of that column. Okay, or you can fill with the median, or you can fill with the mode of that column. Okay, based on that, what is the type of your data. If it is a categorical data type, then you fill with mode. So this understanding you will develop when you study the statistics. Okay, so next thing is like dealing with outliers. So what are the outliers? So suppose see, if we talk about one company, okay, we talk about all the employees of a particular department. So on an average, their salary will be in one particular range. And now suppose MD comes and joins you, okay, your data set. Then MD salary, managing director salary will be very high, right? So that will act as an outlier. So now you need, so in this data pre-processing step, you need to deal what to do with that outlier value, whether to keep that one or remove that one. So there are different techniques how to do that one. Okay. Then another step will be transforming categorical variable. So when I say categorical variable, so categories are nothing but they take some limited set of values. Like if we talk about the days of week, there are only 7 days in a week, right? Monday till Sunday. So there are 7 categories. So now we have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like that. But our machine doesn't understand what is Monday. So we need to assign a particular number. Like, for example, we can assign Monday 1, Tuesday 2, Wednesday 3, like that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now our machine will understand 1, 2, 3, but it will not understand Monday, Tuesday, like that. Okay. So that transformation. Okay. So that also you do. Suppose there are 12 months in a year. Okay, so that data type is like a numeric data type, but you know those are limited values, only 12 values will be there. Then also you need to transform that column as a categorical column. So basically these are the different techniques, these are the different methods you do under data pre-processing steps. Okay, so you can google, you will get many documents, many contents in Google, like how to do, what are the different ways of data pre-processing. Okay, so here my objective is to get you familiar what are the different steps in typical machine learning model. Okay, so the next steps comes like variable selection. So now you are ready with pre-processing, you have cleaned your data. Now with your clean data, you need to do certain kind of feature selection. Not all your feature, when I say feature, then here what I mean, like if you just think of a Excel, then you have some columns. So each column is a feature. Okay. So now not all features are important for your prediction, for your whatever the objective of your machine learning model. Okay. So some could be noisy, some are not that useful. Then you want to remove them. Okay. But how you will get to know which feature, which column is important and which is not important? How you will take that decision? Okay. So that decision you take in this step. Okay. So you have certain techniques like one is like important like principal component analysis. So this is technique when you have many thousands of columns in your data set, you apply PCA, principal component analysis, then it will give you some important set of features. Okay. So reduced set of features. So that is one technique I named. So that's what you do in this step. Now you gather your data, you analyze that data, you pre-process, you done feature selection. What is the next step? Now next step is your ML model building. Till here your data is completely ready. Now you will go with model building. So based on your problem, what kind of problem you have, you select a particular ML algorithm like linear regression, logistic regression, KNN, that is k nearest neighbors, decision tree, random forest, ensemble learning. So there are various set of algorithms. I have named some important. So you select one of the algorithm, you build your model, and then you check the performance. So now if you see this chart, you check the performance, and if your performance is not up to the expectation, you come back, you tune the model. How you tune? You select a different set of features, you set some you modify certain features values. Okay. You do different sampling, all those steps you perform to tune your model, and then again you check whether it has improved the performance or not. So this is iterative process basically. Okay. So there are different techniques how to do this. So that techniques you will easily get in Google. Idea here is to know like what are the steps we follow as a typical data scientist job. Okay. I hope this is clear. So moving further. So what are the applications? So in the very first slide, I showed you like there's a high demand. So almost every industry is demanding the data science scientist, data analyst. So like see, you see in banking, manufacturing, e-commerce, healthcare, transport, finance, almost every industry is demanding the data scientist. So if we talk about the e-commerce industry, so like big giants like Amazon, Flipkart, Walmart, all those are there. Okay. So let me give you one example. So here, like if you buying a mobile through online, for example in Amazon site, then what happens? In bottom you see they are suggesting you the, okay, you may be interested in buying the mobile cover also. How machine knows mobile cover is related with mobile? Of course you as a human know mobile cover is related with mobile, but how machine will know? You may say like, okay, you can feed, you can create a table, you can feed the relation, but for how many products you will feed the relation? That's not easy, right? That's manual work. So that all kind of manual work we want to remove. So we want to develop some intelligence so that it will automatically identify. So that's what we call as recommendation system, recommending a product to the customer, and that increase your sale. So that's how it helps the business. Okay. Another example, like if you are going to a grocery store and you're buying, suppose you buying milk. Okay. And then most likely you'll buy the bread also. Okay. So how system will know? So based on your behavior, suppose you are a frequent visitor to a particular store, shopping mall or anything. Okay. Then next time when you are visiting, and if they have some smart card, okay, and then as soon as you took that card, you feed your detail, then it will understand, okay, which particular customer he is, and then it will automatically suggest, okay, you may be interested on this particular product, you may be interested on this particular product. So this kind of advancement is happening, and that's how it is helping business to sell more and more products. Okay, and then same kind of there are various applications in healthcare, finance like stock market to know how whether it will go up or no down, all those things. Manufacturing like in VLSI domain, like the chip manufacturing. I'm also from chip manufacturing, like my company is manufacture the chips. Okay, so there we are applying these kind of techniques in chip, like wafer defect identification, congestion prediction. So as I can correlate, like in VLSI domain, we so when we design the floor planning images, right? So kind of when we are designing the integrated circuit, so we need to place lot of connectors, registers, capacitors, all those things. Okay, and then after placing, we get to know, okay, some congestion happens. So but now congestion already happened, we cannot do anything, we have to revert and we have to destroy this whole thing and we need to redesign it, right? So a lot of cost is involved, a lot of human like resources is involved, labor cost is involved. Okay, VLSI industry is very costly. So that's where if somehow we can early predict the congestion, so that helps. So that is a typical example of VLSI industry. Okay, so almost that's where I'm telling almost every industry is demanding a good data scientist. And why we are not able to fulfill that demand? Because we are not skilled enough. So that's where if we can skill ourselves good in this particular domain, then our future is very bright. Okay, so now what are the different job roles in data science domain? Like let me just populate all for example. So these are not all, basically there are many more, but these are the important. And in data science domain, these all job roles are very closely related. Okay, so sometimes they vary based on the industry also, they adopt different they name different job role. But let me explain the top level role, okay, which are like very well adopted in the industry, like data scientist. So what data scientist day-to-day job is, so they are the one who try to find the trends and patterns. Like I say, like where there is no mathematical formula, how you will predict for future, how you will forecast. So that's where trends and patterns helps you to forecast and predict. So it's a data scientist job to identify those things. Then of course predictive modeling, then statistical modeling, then forecasting. Okay, and then comes to data analyst. Data analyst is someone, as the name suggests, he's not the one who predicts something for future. He's the one who will generate the insight from the raw data. He will collect the data, he will process the data, and he will generate the insight. So that's where visualization comes, data transformation is needed, processing DB queries, because if data is stored in some database, then he need to apply a lot of DB queries. Okay, data optimization, he need to speed up the process. So all kind that kind of job is being done by data analyst. Okay, but it again saying it is vary. If you are working in some startup, okay, and they have a small team, then they expect all kind of roles to be done by one particular person, like data scientist is responsible for everything. Okay, so like they have 4 to 5 members team, so all 4 to 5 members are responsible for everything. So they are working in different projects, and in each project they are doing all things, right? So that's where, but if you're talking about some big company where they have many projects and big number of people in that team, data science team, then they segregate the roles proper, like properly. Okay, comes to data engineer. So they are basically responsible of establishing the big data ecosystem. Like they are responsible for architecting the database, they are responsible for ETL, that is extract, transform, and load these operations. Okay, so they deal with the huge big amount of data. Then comes with ML engineer. So ML engineer, a typical role is to build the ML pipeline. So what I mean by pipeline, see, in your data scientist, you have some like in previous slide I showed like 5 steps, starting from data gathering, processing, sorry, gathering, analyzing, processing, model building, and deploying. Okay, so these are the 5 steps. And then what happens in each 5 steps, if you can automate or you can build some functions around that, so that's the job of ML engineer. Okay, so that data scientist comes and he can adopt new algorithm, he can use that pipeline and he can execute the result. Okay, so that's the thing. Another thing is like important task of ML engineer is like he's responsible for infrastructure setup. Like once our model is ready, where to deploy, what are the things, what are the infrastructure needed for deployment. Okay, how to create API, so API creation, like a functionality is ready, how to access that functionality, right? How end user will use that model. Those API creation, AB testing, all those jobs are done by ML engineer. Okay. Then comes a very important business analyst. So business analyst is someone who closely works with the data analyst. So it's like, why we call it business analyst, because he should have some business understanding. Suppose if he's working in a semiconductor domain, then he should have understanding of chip development process. If he's working in e-commerce, then he should know a particular product will be sold in which particular area more, which particular segment, all those like business understanding, when sale will go high, when sale will go down, all those understanding, so that he can closely work with data analyst and he can tell, okay, this kind of insight is needed. Okay. So that kind of business, so he should have some data science knowledge, some business knowledge. He works as a, so he should his day-to-day job is to talk to data analyst. Also, on another hand, he talked to management colleagues also. It's kind of mediator between data analysis and management guys. So he should be very good in storytelling. So whatever the analyst has given the insights, so it is the business analyst who will explain those insights to the management, so that management can take a decision. So he should be good in data visualization, interpretation, presentation, business understanding, and all those things. Okay. Then comes statisticians. So what a statistician do? So he is mainly research oriented. So data science. So typical data scientist use the uh, existing ML algorithm to predict for future, to work on raw data. Statisticians are someone who research, who develop new methodology, who develop new algorithm. Okay. So like Google, IBM. So those are the companies who are coming up with new models. Other companies reuse their model. Like Google has come up with the BERT model, that bidirectional transformer model. Okay. So that is used for basically NLP, natural language processing related tasks. So all the company mostly using BERT model, that is very good in accuracy. But Google has developed that one. So they are investing a lot of money in research. So that's where a statistician and someone who is interested in research. So that's statistician job basically. Okay. So when you're searching for your data science, so you should know all these terminology. You should know what is the role for different like data scientist, what data scientists do, what data analysts do, all those things basically. Okay. Then moving further, this is a very important slide, like learning path to become a data scientist. So how you should start basically. If you are a fourth year student or you are a third year student, then you have some like 6 month time. Then I would suggest you start with statistics. You should go little deep basically, what want to say basically. But if you're already in the job market, if you're searching for the job, then maybe you can little speed up the process, which I will tell you next step. But if you have some 6 month or 1 year of time, then I would suggest you should start with statistics. Go deeper in statistics, because that knowledge is very much needed. Simultaneously, you learn how to code in Python or R. So see, many people ask what is the which is the most frequently used programming language in data science, Python or R? I would say all the statistics related tasks. For that, R has good libraries exposed. R has a lot of inbuilt method exposed. You can directly use those methods and get the insight. So when your job is limited till insight generation, then R plays a major role. Okay. When you move to deep learning like image processing, natural language processing, lot of unstructured data, then Python comes handy. So for all advanced tasks, Python is very helpful. For statistics related statistical modeling, insight generation, R is very good. Okay. But I'm not telling for statistics, all those things you cannot use Python. For advanced thing, you cannot use R. You can of course use, but there are places where Python is more preferable. There are places where R is more preferable. Okay. So it's your choice, but industry is demanding more for Python. Then I would suggest invest more time in Python basically. Okay. Then next thing, like understand data pre-processing. I explained in previous slide what happens in data pre-processing. And then comes data visualization. Once you're done with it, so what you will do in data visualization, you will generate the insights. Okay. Then comes machine learning algorithms. Once your data is ready, you'll apply machine learning algorithm. Then till here, you learned statistics, you learned Python, you learned visualization, you learned applying machine learning. Okay, but have you solved enough practice problem? Right? So that's where you should solve lot of practice problem. Okay, I will give the links where you can get the practice problem. Then you have solved, okay, how to test yourself, whether you have enough knowledge, which industry demands. Okay, then you should go for hackathons. So there are live hackathons happening every day. Okay, you should search in Google. I have collected some links in next coming slide I will give. So that's where, see, data science field is very, very competitive, though there are many jobs, but still there are not skilled resources available. So that's where, if sometimes your profile is not able getting shortlisted. Sometimes companies are preferring the tier one colleges. Okay, so that happens. So I'm telling for the common crowd. Okay, so so what a person should approach, how they should approach, they should participate in hackathons, because nobody will stop you in participating in hackathons. And if you have performed good in hackathons, then they give you offer on the spot. Even my companies organize many hackathons, and we have given 2% on the spot offer. So yesterday itself we have given. Okay, so so that's where participating in a hackathon is very important. Suppose you haven't performed good in hackathon, what is the next step? You have option, you have access to the top performing colleagues uh, code notebook. You can download, because if you have registered, then you are allowed to download. But if you have not registered, you will not have access. So that's where registering and participating in very important. You download and analyze where you would have improved. And once you have participated in 4 to 5 hackathons, you will build enough courage, enough confidence, so that you can crack any interview in data science. So this is the typical path you should follow. Don't worry if you're not getting interview calls. If you will participate in hackathons, then you will get offer. No worries. Then next, in all these things, what are the different topics basically? So see, many people ask what are the topics to study for data science. So these are the basically topics. So of course, I cannot cover all the topics in detail in this 1 hour. So this seminar is focused on giving you the know-how and exposing the topics, so that you can later Google and search for this topic and study. So in statistics, these are the main topics like signal tendencies, measures of variability, basics of probability, central limit theorem, hypothesis testing, confusion matrix, all those things. For Python, these are the things. Visualization, these are the things. And then of course for machine learning, these are the important algorithms. Then comes deep learning like neural networks, text analysis. So this is the typical flow. If you have enough time, you should start from statistics, invest some 15 to 20 days on this one, have a good understanding of these concepts. Then so Python you need to understand simultaneously, because with the Python only you will execute that code. Then comes visualization. Again, invest some 15 to 20 days. Then machine learning, invest almost 1 month. Then deep learning. So invest some 6 months on this concept, then you will good to go for job hunting in data science. Next, I promised I have some links. So like where to look for practice problems. So we have Kaggle. So here you will see a lot of problems defined with the solution. So you don't need to. So if someone is already in job searching, okay, he is passed out or something, okay, then your process of learning should be quick and fast. Okay, then you can directly start with Kaggle. You start with problem, you solve, and in each step you understand what is happening. You ask a question, what is happening? And then if you are confused, you take help of Google, you take help of your seniors. Okay, you can of course ping me. So that's how you should start your preparation. And then of course another option is UCI, machine learning repository. Here also lot of data sets are available, solutions you can look for Google. Okay, and then you can solve them. And of course, Google is also there. You can search for Google. Then next is like question comes like where to look for hackathons. Okay, so here are some links I have placed like Hacker Earth. Here they are like almost every month new hackathons are going on. Uh, Industry companies, they are posting their hackathons, like job hackathons. With the hackathon, they are recruiting, so it's very good. Another is like HR analytics. So it is from Analytics Vidya. So you remember Janta Curfew was there. So with the same name, they started Janta Hack. So they had one hackathon. Then of course KD Nuggets. So here also a lot of hackathons going on. Then we have hackathon.com. Here also you look for hackathon. And then one more platform I am working on. So this is kind of my startup, Ineto.ai. So here, as in the very beginning, I told like I'm there to help colleagues who are come for with their queries on data science. So this is the platform I created for them. So they can connect with me on this one. And of course, many more. Don't stop searching. Use Google wisely, right? So Google is there with you. So anyway. So these are the platform where you can look for hackathons, participate, test your knowledge, and wherever you lack, you work on those skills, then improve, then again participate in hackathons. After 3 to 4 hackathon participation, you will have good confidence on that. Then of course, the very important, like how to increase chances of getting interview calls. So see, trend is changing. Okay, your resume is not enough. Of course, that is required, but that is not enough. Okay, so that's where comes like personal branding. You should have your branding in today's digital world. If you are see you if you are selling yourself, you have to sell yourself. You have to treat yourself as a commodity and sell yourself in the market of job, right? So that's where personal branding comes. So how to develop the personal branding? Create impressive LinkedIn profile and be active. Post on weekly basis or whatever the time you get on that. Post regularly on LinkedIn. Engage with good mindset. Engage with, like, if you are hunting job on data science domain, then engage with data science colleagues. See what kind of problem they are working on. Comments, all those things. Okay. GitHub, another thing is, see, suppose you have done some 5 to 6 projects, but if you're not showcasing, how recruiters will know, okay, you have done these many projects? So whatever projects you are doing, put that code with proper explanation in your GitHub profile, and then copy that link in your resume. That is very important. Okay. Another thing is like hackathon. Participate in hackathons. I already explained you. If you participate, you will make your good visibility. You will make good connections. So nowadays connections are very important. The more network you build, the more chances like you will get visible in front of recruiters. They will contact you. Okay, so that's the important. Then Kaggle. Here you can participate in competitions. You win competitions, they will highlight you. They will like give you badges which you can put in LinkedIn. You can market yourself basically. Okay. Use social media wisely to build good professional network and showcase your talent, right? It gives you visibility, it gives you connectivity, it gives you branding. So these all platforms are there. You need to use them wisely. Then of course you should update yourself with latest technology in your field. That is tech update. So we have a lot of platforms like Udemy, we have Coursera. So a lot of free courses are available. So even in LinkedIn also now they have started LinkedIn learning. So a lot of free courses are available. And even if some are not free but some are very good, then their charges are not too high. With 699 or 500 bucks you can subscribe for a course in Udemy, right? So that's, and these courses are very good. So you can go through, you can keep updating yourself for latest technology. So that's very important. So if you follow all these steps, nobody can stop you getting your dream job. Okay. And then of course there are some tips. So I'll not go deep in this resume building, but I have written some points like you should have like header will so so you can read these points, but what I want to convey here is like I will give you one example. Like I was working on the one problem on HR domain, like data extraction from resume. Okay, so we wanted to apply some natural language techniques to like smartly filter out the resume of good candidate who belongs to a particular job role. So what problem we faced? Okay, we got many nice looking resume. They have done a lot of styling, lot of graphs, and many more things. So what happens? Our algorithm was not able to identify those graphs. Suppose they have identified the graphs also. So on graphs, what are the text is there? So that it was not able to identify 100%. Of course, our ML model, we have applied some image processing techniques. We have applied natural language processing. They're able to give you 90% result. But what if your resume lies on 10%, right? So that's where idea is like, keep your resume as simple as that. Keep it simple, but include everything. You should have header with formal paragraph, brief technical summary on your past work and skills, maximum 10 like. If you are fresher, then of course include what kind of project work you have done and what are the skill set. Then professional experience, if any, or academic projects, publications, technical contributions on public conferences, forums like GitHub, Stack Overflow, all those things, certifications and courses including project details, achievements, extracurricular activities, and declaration. And most importantly, this is the most important point, modify and update your resume based on the specific job description. What I want to say here, what people do normally, they build their resume, and whatever the jobs comes on their respective area, they blindly apply for that. Each job description doesn't matter if they are looking for software developer only, they are looking for data scientist only, they have different job description for data scientists. Maybe they are looking at a data scientist who will be working on statistical modeling. They are looking for data scientists who will working on predictive modeling. They are looking for data scientists who is working who should be working on NLP, right? So based on job description, you should highlight those keywords in your resume so that their resume filtering platform should filter. So it should not filter out your resume. It should filter like in positive way, right? So so that's the important, like you should modify your resume for each job description and highlight your keywords. And of course I explain what you should not have, like unnecessary styling, over explanation of projects, and of course projects which you have not done. Okay, that's very important because when wave comes like in data scientists, like everybody want to be a data scientist, and they whatever, like they have not, they don't have any experience on data science, they have not done any data science project, but still they show some projects and they want to get a job. Here some twist is there. If you have done enough practice, you are 200% confident, then it also works sometime. Okay, it's up to you, like if you are 200% confident you will be able to explain the concept, then it's fine. But I will not suggest to put the project which you have not done. Okay, and in detail you can go through this link. I have explained everything in detail so that you can refer later. And then of course in today's hiring structure, what happens? So this is the generic hiring structure, like whenever companies go for recruitment, they look for aptitude, reasoning, communication. So we are familiar with this, nothing new. But one for students, one important thing I want to say, I also go for campus hiring, so I understand how, what going on in interviewer mind. Okay, so from student, let me explain you first student point of view. Suppose you attempted aptitude. Okay, you attempted reasoning, and your reasoning section you didn't do well, and you are thinking, okay, I have not done well in reasoning, then my chances are anyway less. So you are demotivated, and you are not doing good in communication, you are not doing good in programming skill, and there are chances you will not even attempt the programming section, right? You just submitted and went home. You decided, okay, you will not get selected. This is not the picture. Okay, let me explain you what happens in reality. We as a company go for hiring, we don't go for rejection. Okay, we we have spent money to come to the college, and we want to take the students. So that's where we don't look if someone has not performed in one particular section, we give them another chance. So try to attempt all the sections with full motivation, with full passion. Doesn't matter if some of the section you have not done well. Okay, what happens? See, if you have not done good in programming, but you have done in good aptitude and reasoning, so your reasoning skills are good. Programming, we can train you for in 1 month. We still take you. There are chances. Okay, if you are very good in analytical skills, aptitude, reasoning, we still take you. There are chances we still take you. If you have not done in aptitude reasoning, you are very smart in programming. Who cares for aptitude reasoning? Okay, so you know programming, will give you some functions to write. You are able to write. Our job is done. Who cares? You don't know aptitude reasoning, right? Fine. So there are different mindset of recruiters basically. I'm not denying the importance of each different section. They have their own importance, but I'm just trying to say is don't get demotivated if you have not done good in one particular section. That's the important. And then next step, like once you have performed, once you're done with your written test, your HR comes and they will filter out based on the job description. Like panel one will be for a specific job description, panel two for a specific job description. They will send you on different panels. So here also one important thing is what happens. I'm telling you from interviewer point of view now. Okay, because I go for campus hiring, I know what happens. We start asking certain technical questions to the candidate. What happens? We know what I am hiring for, what other panel is hiring for, what panel 3 is hiring for. We know all the job descriptions. So we will start asking questions for my job requirement. If you are doing good, we will hire you. Of course, this section you will click clear. You will go for another another round, but for this round you are clear. But suppose you are not doing good in this panel, there are still chances. Again, I'm saying don't get demotivated. What happens? This interviewer will start asking one or two questions which belongs to the job description of panel 2. If you are doing good, then panel 1 will refer you to the panel 2. Same thing will happen if you are not doing good in panel 2, he will refer to panel 3, like this. So you will be referred to another panel based on what kind of question knowledge you have. So don't get demotivated if you are not doing good in particular section. Keep your motivation high. You are still having chances for clearing the interview. Okay, so that's the message I want to give here. So once technical interview is done, then of course you will go through the HR interview, then attitude, behavior, communication. Now new test is coming, like psychometric test. So here like they want to know like in a pressure situation how you will behave. Okay, and how you handle the pressure, what are your leadership skills. All those things are tested in psychometric test. You can Google it and you will get it. So but that is not important, that's fine. Another important thing which I want to convey here is like a new trend is coming. So nowadays, like in mainly in data science, okay, we ask the data science questions, but after that, what else we do? We give you a problem description, we give you a problem statement, and give you some time and ask you go home, solve this problem, and come up with the solution. And then again for 1 hour we interview you. We ask certain questions related to that problem statement, that case study, how you have solved that problem, how you have approached that problem. So that's the intention. So that is a new trend. Okay, so this is also very important. So this is what we do in hiring. So that's this is the last slide basically for today's presentation. That's what I wanted to cover. And of course these are my contact details. If some of you wanted to get connected, I would love to connect with you guys. That's where I have started this enetwork.ai, where I help people with conducting mock interviews. We provide mock mentorship, we provide study material. That's all free of cost. We do out of our passion, so you can get connected with us. So this platform is in progress basically, but of course some services are anyway there. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I would love to connect with you. Instagram is also there. So that's all from my side, guys. So I hope this made sense. You have got something on your data science journey. Still, if you have any question, anything, you can contact me. You can ask now.